What's up, boys? I finally got a webcam, so we're gonna start putting it to use for sure because this thing is sick. Because we got the webcam, we're gonna try out some different style videos on the channel here. If you guys enjoyed these videos, make sure to let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this kind of stuff where I just sit down and talk about what's going on in the sports world. Today, we're gonna do my super early playoff predictions for the 2023 NFL season, but I'll also use the camera on just news-related stuff for sports, some football, basketball, whatever, or I'll use them on my difference between videos as well. Got one coming out on Monday, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But until then, this is going to be my super early playoff prediction and my super early Super Bowl winner for the 2023 NFL season. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like, maybe consider subscribing as well. Also, you can use my code 2GOLD for $20 off your first purchase on SeatGeek. Got my cup of coffee here. I already went through and set every team's regular season finishes off. We can run through them real quick. I got the Ravens at the first seed at 13-4, followed up by the Chiefs winning the second seed at 12-5, the Jags at the third seed at 12-5 as well, with the Dolphins also at a 12-5 record. The AFC is tough, man. Tough to predict. I had a lot of teams going 12-5 here. The schedules just line up favorably for them, so you know it was really hard to predict what was gonna happen in these outcomes, but the teams in the playoffs themselves, not hard to predict for me because I feel like it's pretty clear cut, although we'll see, you never know. So Dolphins at the 4 seed, Texans at the 5th seed with 10-7 record, and then a similar situation to what we saw last year where 3 teams from the same division make the playoffs. This time it's in the AFC with the Steelers and the Browns both making it at 10-7. Then you go to the NFC here, Eagles. I could very easily see this team going 15-2, although this is also a team that could pretty easily go 16-1. But you always kind of want to bet against that because it's very rare you see that happen in the NFL. So I got the Eagles going 14-3, making the first seed, followed up by the Lions winning their division at 13-4. This team was a shock to me, by the way, and everyone in the football world. I knew they were going to be good, didn't think they'd be this good, and the schedule just lines up for them, so I think that they have a very good chance to get the second seed in the NFC. Then you got the 49ers at 12-5 here, and then the NFC South, definitely a division, we'll say that. They make the playoffs at 9-8 as the 4 seed, obviously. And then the Cowboys, 12-5 with the 5th seed. I got the Packers making the playoffs at 9-8 here with the 6th seed, followed by the Rams making the 7th seed at 9-8. Now, the Packers might come as a shock to some people, so I'll talk about this real quickly before we get into the actual playoff predictions. I think down the stretch, the Packers have been playing incredible football, right? Absolutely incredible football. Jordan Love playing some of the best football he's been playing the past couple of weeks, especially, you know, what was it, week 12 against the Lions? Just looked amazing, right? Absolutely incredible. And then against the Chargers in a shootout against a very, very, very pass rush heavy defense. You really liked what you saw out of Jordan Love if you're a Packers fan. And especially with them integrating A.J. Dillon into the mix finally, I really like their deep field play. They have incredible wide receivers down the field, and I really like what the Packers are doing down the stretch. Now you look at the rest of their schedule, and the schedule lines up very well for them, right? I got them losing to the Chiefs, obviously, in Week 13, which is a very tough matchup. I can't see their offense doing much of anything against arguably one of the best defenses in all of football right now. Chris Jones is going to have a day, and the secondary, you know, a lot of their corners line up very nicely against what their receivers want to do. I think Trent McDuffie shuts down Christian Watson, etc. So, you know, that's a tough matchup. And then in Week 14, I have the upset here, simply because my thought process is if their offense is stagnant against a very good defense in the Chiefs, the same could be said against a Week 14 matchup Giants, where their defense is very underrated. It's been playing, you know, somewhat good down the stretch of this season. It's the sole reason why the Giants are winning football games. You know, Kayvon Thibodeau is a game wrecker, so you gotta account for that. Can the Giants do anything offensively and put any kind of output onto the field with Saquon Barkley? Probably not. But if the defense comes in and absolutely stalls out the Packers like they've been doing to a lot of the teams as of recently, and the Packers don't score in the first half like they tend to do a lot, then there's a very real chance the Giants could just win off of defense, right? And it's a field goal type of game, and it's one of those slow, you know, very time of possession, methodical based games. The Giants have the better run game for that matter, so I do like the Giants winning that in the upset. That being said, the rest of their schedule is extremely easy and very favorable, right? You got the Bucks. The Packers love to pass the football, especially down the field, like I said. Bucks are one of the worst defenses in the league when it comes to the passing game. Then you got the Panthers. That should be a free win. And then the Vikings, tough matchup, but I don't think the Vikings defense keeps up with the Packers, especially if Jordan Love keeps playing the way he's playing and has the bounce back, you know, last couple 4 games compared to these 2 games that I predicted them to lose. And then the Bears win. They're pretty self-explanatory, right? I just don't think the Bears can match anything the Packers want to do, right? Offensively and defensively. The Bears will just want to run the football, and if they fall behind, they fall behind and lose. So, which puts them at a playoff spot. I kind of like it for them, right? You look at the other teams that have a shot at making the playoffs over the Packers. I don't think the Vikings do. The Vikings are super inconsistent. Josh Dobbs, you know, is he going to be able to consistently give them 250 to 300 passing yard games with no run game? I don't think so. I mean, we'll see. It is a miracle run for the Vikings. It could happen, but I like the Packers' overall team building and overall, you know, quarterback offensive play better than the Vikings. Then you got the Seahawks. The Seahawks already have a really bad division record. So it's near impossible for them to make the playoffs for me. And then the Saints are the only other team that have a shot of making it over the Packers. And look, the Saints, the schedule just doesn't line up for them, right? In order for the Saints to make it, they would have to win against the Lions, which is highly unlikely. I don't think that's happening. Which means at that point, if you lose to the Lions, you have to win out. Like, you only have one more game to lose. If you lose one more game, you're out of the playoff run. And losing to the Rams, you know, that's tough, right? That kicks them out the playoffs at a 8-9 record. And I don't see them beating the Rams. Very similar teams, but the Rams have a better offense, the better offensive line, the better run game. I don't see the Saints making the playoffs. So, all right, now we get into the wild card round. So, we'll start off with the AFC. We'll start off with this first matchup. This is a tough matchup, right? There's no easy pickings for the Miami Dolphins here. The Texans are a seriously savvy football team for being as young as they are, right? I mean, CJ Stroud balling out of control, MVP candidate. With D'Amico Ryans as their head coach, you love the way they're playing football as a unit. Now, here are the key points for this matchup. Number 1, can the Texans keep up with the Miami Dolphins' speed on defense? Will Anderson's going to get to the quarterback. I'm not worried about that, right? The pass rush is going to be there for the Texans because the Dolphins' offensive line is crumbling. They have a lot of injuries. They have a lot of, you know, they've been moving around a lot of people to try and find the perfect positioning for how the offensive line is going to operate. And in the playoffs, it's not a great picture. It's not a great look for you. Granted, it doesn't matter that much for the Dolphins because they get the ball out so damn quick that it's pretty safe to say that the Dolphins will have time to get rid of the football. Like I said, I'm not worried about the pass rush. The pass rush will be there. What I'm worried about is, can they make tackles in the open field? Can they keep up with receivers down the field? Can they keep up with Devon Achane if he plays in the playoffs? Can they keep up with Raheem Mostert if he plays in the playoffs? I don't know if that's doable for the Texans. I just don't think they have enough speed, right? Like Derek Stingley, not a super fast guy. Jalen Petrie, not a super fast guy. Not great linebacker play. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, we'll see. Second key point, are the Texans going to be able to run the football to set up their play action plays, their open field, you know, slot routes, especially with Tank Dell being a monster? You know, is Tank Dell going to be able to operate the way he has been operating if they can't run the football? And I'm not entirely sure that's the case. Now, the reason why I don't think they'll be able to run the football is because you got some big guys that are super underrated on that defensive line for the Miami Dolphins. There are no schlumps in the run support. Now, granted, they're not the best run defense in the league. They're about league average. With a team that's already struggling to run the football and a team that doesn't really have a clear-cut running back one, right? It's a super run by committee. Dameon Pierce has looked terrible. I'm not sure that the Texans are going to be able to run the football in this game. And if you're already playing from behind, which could be possible against the Dolphins, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a struggle. I'm going to pick the Dolphins here. I think the Dolphins are just the better built team. I think the Texans don't have, they don't have any experience. They've been playing like it doesn't matter that they don't have any experience, but I think it's going to matter in this matchup. And the Dolphins don't have much experience either, but you really like what Mike McDaniel is going to cook up in this game. And I'm not sure, like I said, I don't think the Texans can keep up with any of the speed. I think Tyreek Hill is going to burn out a lot of their guys. Dolphins win this matchup. Steelers versus Jags. This is another interesting matchup that I think could be definitely undersold here. I'm going to go with the Jags. It's the clear-cut answer, obviously, but don't be surprised if this is like a super gritty, 3-point game where it comes down to a chip shot field goal to win it. Like the Steelers defense, they don't give up on anything. They've got great run support. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in this matchup, but I think Doug Peterson knows how good this Steelers defense is. They're going to get it to their playmakers. They're going to be able to pass to the outside, right? Because they've got weak corner play, and this just as a whole, their secondary is a bit questionable. Yes, obviously Joey Porter Jr. is a stud. Minkah Fitzpatrick is a stud, but I don't love the matchup for the Steelers. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up offensively with what the Jags want to do. One of the only clear-cut giveaways in this wild card round. I'm going to go with the Chiefs here. Listen, the Browns are not a bad football team. I picked them to go to the playoffs for a reason. At the end of the day, it's DTR versus Patrick Mahomes. Come on, man. Is there really even a debate there? Yes, the Browns defense is incredible, but it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. They're going to probably get blown out by 30. The NFC, Cowboys versus the Falcons. Now, normally, I would say that the Cowboys are first-round exits, right? They normally always are. The reason why they weren't last year is because they played against a horrendous Bucs team that didn't even finish above 500, right? They were below 500. So, but then, they go on to the divisional, play the 49ers, get absolutely mollywopped. So it's normally I would pick against the Cowboys here because the Cowboys just haven't shown it in the playoffs. But I'm going to take the Cowboys against the Falcons. I don't think the Falcons are a good enough team to beat the Cowboys, right? The Falcons, congratulations to them for making the playoffs. They don't care how they get the win. They're super gritty. They're super tough. They're super physical. They've got good playmakers on defense that have been doing it for them all season long, especially in the run game, right? They're one of the better run defenses in the league with Grady Jarrett. And it's tough to pick against the Falcons, but in this matchup, they're going to get clowned on. Taylor Heineke or Desmond Ridder versus Dak. And I like Dak a lot more than both those guys. Yes, the Falcons, I would say, in my opinion, have the better playmakers, right? Because you got Kyle Pitts, you've got Drake London, and you've got Bijan Robinson versus CeeDee Lamb, Tony Pollard. It's yes, they have the better playmakers, but they're outclassed by play calling. Arthur Smith is going to get just torn to shreds. They're outclassed by defensive play, and they're outclassed by how well their offensive line's going to support themselves, because you're playing against one of the best offensive lines in football in the Cowboys. Tyler Smith's playing one of the best guards in all of football right now. Combine that with Zach Martin. Then you look at the Falcons offensive line. It's they're super young. There's a lot of key holes in the interior. What do you do there, right? So I don't like the Falcons here at all against the Cowboys. 49ers versus Packers. This is the other clear-cut giveaway that I think is just a given, right? The Packers are a good football team. They've been playing great down the stretch, like I said. They made the playoffs, but this is a tough matchup. I mean, you're playing against arguably the best defense in all of football, right? It's the Cowboys and the Browns. You can argue any of them could be the best. You're not going to have a good time against Nick Bosa. You're not going to have a good time against Chase Young. You're not going to have a good time against Javon Kinlaw. Maybe Brock Purdy comes out and struggles, right? I mean, we didn't see a dominant postseason game from Brock Purdy last season. Even if he does struggle, does that mean I like what the Packers are going to do against the 49ers? No. I mean, they're not going to do anything. This is by far the toughest matchup to predict right here. The Rams versus the Lions. Now, listen, I'm a Lions believer. I think most of us are probably a Lions believer at this point. I think most of us want to see the Lions go all the way this year. This has just been an incredible story for the Lions. Dan Campbell is a genius. He's a marvel. I'm happy for Lions fans, truly. That being said, what do you do here? If you're in this situation where you have to pick, if you're betting a parlay, right? And your parlay, in the end of your parlay leg says that you need the Lions or the Rams to win, who are you picking to win that game? Look, Lions fans, I'm really sorry. I really am, but I'm going to go with the Rams here. I'm going to go with the Rams on the upset. The Lions are a good football team. If the Lions fall behind and they're forced to pass to come back and win against the Rams, I'm not sure Jared Goff is going to be able to keep up with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp. That duo is going to absolutely game wreck the Lions defense. They need to come out and have an early presence and early dominance on the offensive side of the ball, or they will lose this football game, because the Lions love to run the clock. They love to keep the time of possession. They love to pound the rock in your face over and over and over again. They have arguably the best offensive line in all of football. But none of it's going to matter if they can't run the football against Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald in the playoffs. If the Rams do make the playoffs, Aaron Donald in the playoffs is a game wrecker, and you have to account for that. And I'm not sure Dan Campbell is going to pay too much consideration into that. I'm not sure Dan Campbell has had enough experience to account for the fact that the Rams have some serious game wreckers, and although you have the better football team, one or two guys on this Rams team are going to get it done for the Rams for them to come out and win this football game. All it takes is one slip up from Jared Goff. All it takes is one fumble from David Montgomery, and this Rams team can get away with it easily. So I like the Rams in this matchup. I really do. I think Aaron Donald is going to wreck their run game. They're going to have a great pass game, and I just don't know if their secondary is going to be able to guard guys like Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua with Tutu Atwell as a deep threat down the field. They just don't have many playmakers like that in the secondary. So then it comes down to, well, can the Lions pass rush against the Rams? Yeah, they can, right? The Rams don't have an amazing offensive line. It's definitely not bad, but it's not great, right? So they could definitely get to the quarterback with Aiden Hutchinson, but is it enough? Probably not. I mean, like, they're gonna mix it up on you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know, man. I like the Rams in this matchup. I'm gonna take them for the upset. Moving on to the divisional. Chiefs against the Jags. I like the Jags, man. I really do. You got the rematch from last year. The Jags are a good football team, but we saw it in the regular season already, and the Chiefs just don't lose in the playoffs, right? Come playoff time, wipe the slate clean. None of it matters. Fresh football. It's as if the season had just began, right? Because when the Chiefs play in the playoffs, it's a whole different ball game. Travis Kelce is going to ball out. Andy Reid is going to make really good play calls, and Patrick Mahomes, he's gonna figure out a way to make it work, right? He's gonna figure out a way to get the ball in people's hands. Just like how the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year, all it takes is one or maybe two guys that you don't expect to come up and make big plays for them to make big plays, and they're winning the football game because of it, right? Last year it was Sky Moore. You don't want to see that if you're a Jags fan, right? If you're seeing Rashee Rice ball on you, you know it's over at that point. Steve Spagnuolo, he runs a really good cover 3 defense, and it's going to be really tough to see how Doug Peterson beats that cover. A super tough matchup here. I really like both these teams. I could see both these teams making it all the way out the AFC, but I'm going to go with the Ravens. Look, man, the Ravens are playing incredible football, and there's no two ways around that to put it. That's why I had them winning 13 games with the number 1 seed. Yes, the Dolphins have one of the best offenses of all time with Mike McDaniel and all this speed. I really like Lamar Jackson in this matchup. I really do. Because I don't think anyone on their defense can keep up with Lamar. I don't think they're going to be able to set the contain against Lamar. And I think Lamar out the pistol is too much of a threat that Mike McDaniel has to account for. And because they're putting so much focus into Lamar Jackson running the football like that, they're going to have so much open and so many opportunities to get it to their playmakers. So much open down the field. It's unreal, right? Like, think about it. If they have the contain with maybe a 2-person spy or a 1-person spy down the middle, and then you have, like, you know, your floater in the flat with whatever off-ball linebacker the Dolphins are playing, you know, like Jerome Baker, whoever it is, or, you know, maybe 2 guys are playing the spy with the contain, and then you just have no one covering the middle of the field, or, you know, you bring down Jalen Ramsey or Javon Holland or Xavier Howard as like, you know, kind of a pseudo linebacker player for them to play in the slot, then it's like, okay, we just have Zay Flowers on an open motion for 50 yards and a touchdown, right? Or we just have Odell off a slant in the inside to just absolutely wreck the game for you. Or, okay, we'll just hand it off to the outside here, Keaton Mitchell or whatever running back decides they want to play that day, Gus Edwards, whoever it is. They're also one of the best red zone offenses in all of football in the Ravens. You can't stop what the Ravens want to do in the red zone because you have so much to account for, right? You have to account for Lamar, you have to account for Odell Beckham Jr., you have to account for so much, and it's like, I don't like it. I don't like it for the Dolphins defense, and the Miami offense is going to be able to keep up for sure, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. Cowboys versus 49ers. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer, right? Like, yes, I could see the Cowboys winning this, but will they? No. Come on, Mike McCarthy is not going to beat Kyle Shanahan as a play caller. We've seen it time and time again. It's become a playoff rivalry at this point. Not only that, Dak has never proven himself in the big game. He'll probably come out and throw like 2 turnovers in this game, and then it's over, right? And as good as the Cowboys defense is, will it matter? No. You want to know why it doesn't matter? Because who do you guard on the 49ers offense if you're the Cowboys? Who do you stop? You don't stop anyone because you have to account for so much. The only clear-cut win here for me is the Rams versus the Eagles. I don't need to explain this. Like, Jalen Hurts is going to have a field day against this team. Then we come to the conference championships. Start off in the AFC, the Chiefs versus the Ravens. Man, this is going to be an incredible matchup if this is what ends up happening. And I got to say, this is going to be one of those years where the Chiefs do not make it out the conference championship and the Ravens take it home. This is, like I said, a really tough matchup, super hard for me to decide. It's another year where the Chiefs make it to the AFC Championship, but really like the Ravens this year, man. I really, really like what they've been doing as a football team. I mean, there's a reason they're so dominant. Yes, there are games where they look like they're in a super slump. I mean, those games that they're not in a super slump, they're beating teams by 25, 30. And it's like, you look at those games and it's like, what do you do? How do you play against this team? The sets that they come out in, you know, if it's a 2 tight end set, if they're coming out with 3 running backs in the backfield, they don't need to run the QB sneak on short gains or red zone packages because they just have so much speed out the backfield. It's like, what do you do? You know? And like, now that they finally have receiver play, it's like, man, I don't know how you beat this offense. And then defensively, with a team that's been struggling on the offensive side of the ball, and like I said, wipe the slate clean for the Chiefs. It's a whole different ball game in the playoffs, yes, but I mean, I just don't know how you deal with this Ravens defense. They have too much going on for them. You can't run the football. Kyle Hamilton is arguably a top 5 run support DB in the entire league. Kyle Hamilton is a heavy hitter. He's a fast playmaker. He will punch the football out of your hands if you're not paying attention. And he's great in the open field, gets a lot of tackles for loss as well. Patrick Queen, one of the better coverage linebackers in all of football. Super good off-ball linebacker, right? Roquan Smith can play anywhere on the field, an incredible edge rusher. What do you do against this team, right? It's like, how do you compete? And yes, I know it's Patrick Mahomes. That's how you compete. But I just don't know if it's going to be enough to say, oh, it's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce. It's going to be that thing that I was talking about earlier against the Jags where it's like 1 or 2 guys have to step up for the Chiefs. And in this matchup, I don't know if it's doable. And then you get the rematch, 49ers versus Eagles. I got the Eagles going all the way again. Listen, the Eagles, they just look unbeatable. They really do. I mean, this team is, without a doubt, the clear-cut best team in the NFC, in my opinion. It's been like that for the past 2 seasons now, this one included. So this season and last season. And I mean, this team is dominant. They will beat you in so many ways. Yes, they've looked subpar this season compared to last season, but it doesn't matter, right? Because they'll beat you in time of possession. They've got the best offensive line in all of football. You can't beat them in short yardage gains, which means their red zone offense is incredible. I just don't know how the 49ers compete. Yes, they've got an incredible defense, but I mean, Brock Purdy is eventually going to slip up, and I don't know if Jalen Hurts will. So it's like, I like the Eagles better here, which leads me to my Super Bowl, the Eagles versus the Ravens. A lot of people are probably going to clown on me for having 2 number 1 seeds going into the Super Bowl. That's what happened last year when I put that short out with my playoff predictions, having the 2 high seeds, both number 1 seeds going to the Super Bowl. Oh, you're just picking the 2 number 1 seeds to go to the Super Bowl. Oh, look at that, so predictable, haha. But guess what? I was right last season. I had the Chiefs winning last season, and they did. So I also predicted the Super Bowl as well. So I feel as if I feel pretty confident that my predictions are not bad, at least, right? Like I'm no football expert, obviously, and I you know, I don't claim to be. I just watch a lot of football, so I feel like I'm pretty confident on my predictions here. But you know, I'm not trying to get cocky or anything, but like that's how I feel. I feel as if I'm not horrible at predicting these kinds of things. Eagles versus Ravens is my Super Bowl. As much as I love the Ravens, again, I like this Eagles team this year. I got them winning it in their revenge tour. At the end of the day, you know, this is a coin flip. This is a coin flip, right? I like Lamar way better than I like Jalen Hurts, but do I like the Ravens team better than the Eagles team? I don't know. This might be the one Ravens kryptonite for their entire season, because they love to use their speed to get to the outside when they run the football, and they love to just absolutely pound the rock, right? And then set up for big play action plays. And they're one of the best one of the best red zone offenses in the league. You know who could stop that? The Eagles, because their defensive line, you know, everyone thought it was going to take a huge step down this year. It's only going up. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis is the best 1-2 punch in the interior, arguably in the entire league, right? There's not many teams that can compete with that. I just don't know if the Ravens are going to be able to account for that. I don't know if they can game plan around that. I don't know if they can make adjustments around that, because then they're going to be forced to pass more. If they're forcing their opponent to pass, I like the Eagles against whatever opponent they're playing, simply because if you are the Eagles and you're already playing ahead and you're pounding the rock, chewing the time of possession, and you're forcing your opponent to pass, eventually they're gonna make mistakes. We've seen it time and time again this season with the Eagles. They've got a decent secondary. I think it's going to be too much for the Ravens to handle. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Am I a bum? Am I super wrong? And, you know, you guys don't like my playoff predictions at all? If so, maybe let me know what your playoff predictions are in the comments below. Or do you think my playoff predictions are spot on? They're not spot on, obviously. Any given Sunday, anything can happen. It's the NFL. You never really know what's going to happen, obviously. But I do like my predictions, and I feel pretty confident on them. So maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. At the end of the day, it is what it is. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you all on the next one. Peace.